Hello friends, welcome back to the tetrahedron chemistry classes. So guys, today I am going to discuss a very important polymerization mechanism, right? And this is very important, industrially very important, and this is important for your examinations also. Okay, very important topic in your polymers, and the name of the topic is the Ziegler-Natta polymerization, which is a type of the coordination polymerization. You know, the various kinds of the mechanisms are there for the polymerization reaction, and coordination polymerization is the one kind of the mechanism. So that this Ziegler-Natta catalysis or Ziegler-Natta polymerization is basically as the coordination polymerization, and this polymerization technique or this Ziegler-Natta catalysis is not only important in your polymer chemistry, but it is also important in the organometallic chemistry. If you see the syllabi of your IIT JAM, then in the organometallic section it is written there that Ziegler-Natta catalysis. So today I am going to discuss this thing, but before going into the details of the Ziegler-Natta polymerization or different kinds of the Ziegler-Natta catalyst, it is very important to understand in which in which conditions actually, or for the what kind of the polymers we can synthesize with the help of the Ziegler-Natta polymerization, and what is the utility, right? This is very important. And why it is important to actually go through this Ziegler-Natta polymerization. Okay, so however, you should know that this is very important polymerization technique, and for this technique these two gentlemen, Ziegler from Germany, Natta from Italy, they actually won the Nobel Prize in the chemistry in 1963. Okay, they combinedly actually got this. So this Ziegler-Natta polymerization is used in the synthesis of the alpha olefins. Alpha olefins, you know, the alkenes, right? Like your one alkenes actually. One alkenes means like your ethylene, propylene, or say your butylene or your acetylene. Okay, or sometimes you are substituted your alkenes. For all kinds of these monomers, you can use the Ziegler-Natta polymerization, and you will get the polymer which is actually polythene in case of the ethylene molecule, and polypropylene polymer if you use the propylene monomer, and if you use the acetylene monomer you will get the polyacetylene polymer, and so on. Okay, in all these things your double bond or triple bond is present at the one position. Okay, now the second thing is that why we need the isotactic or the syndiotactic polymers. Okay, see, if you recall my last lecture, in my last lecture I have explained the concept of the tacticity in the polymers, where I have explained the importance of the isotactic and the syndiotactic polymers. So why we need the syndiotactic and isotactic polymers? The first point is that tacticity affects the crystallinity and the packing efficiency of the polymer. You know, in the solid state you have already learned that if the crystal is perfectly packed, it would be harder and stronger. Like that only, this tacticity actually affects the crystallinity, and when the crystallinity is there in the case of the polymers, definitely they will be harder and they will be stronger, they will be denser. Okay, as you know, the crystals have the regularly ordered structures, and polymers that are isotactic in nature or syndiotactic in nature, they have the crystalline structures. Due to the crystalline structures, polymers have strong intermolecular forces, thus such polymers are stronger and denser. Okay, so if you need the stronger and denser polymers, like if you need the stronger and denser polypropylene to actually form the articles which are which are important for the daily purposes, like your jars, okay, and like your bucket, right? Then you will need the harder polypropylene, and for this you will use the Ziegler-Natta catalysis. Okay, this is something very important which you guys should know. And see, this is the example actually. This is your this is your propylene molecule. Okay, and what I can do, I can write N here, and N number of the monomers taken in that case. Okay, and when you take this propylene, okay, and you polymerize it under ordinary condition, this is ordinary polymerization, you will get the polypropylene polymer, and this would be atactic, right? There is no tacticity in it. right? It is not syndiotactic, it is not actually your isotactic, but it is atactic. When you get this atactic polymer, so this polypropylene would be just like that. See, it would be very gummy, gum like nature, right? And you can see the sticky in nature, and it is soft also. Okay, as you can see here, this is where Dr. Fixit, and in that case you see this is the polypropylene, which is gummy in nature and which is very very sticky. And if you heat this and you actually spread on the floor, then it is actually your flooring. Okay, and this flooring is very very soft flooring. We generally use this technique in our homes also. Okay, so this is the polypropylene, which is atactic in nature, sticky, soft and gummy, which is not a very good one. Okay, but it has its own applications, especially in actually you see these soft and the sticky polypropylene. It is used in actually in the formation of the various kinds of the adhesives, like all these things. Okay, and if you go further, then you see I am doing this I am doing this polymerization under Ziegler-Natta conditions. Okay, so when you do the Ziegler-Natta polymerization, later we will discuss the mechanism and all these things. Okay, when you do this Ziegler-Natta polymerization, you get this polypropylene, but this propylene either be your isotactic or syndiotactic, depending upon the conditions of the reaction. As in my last lecture I have explained to you in which condition you will produce the isotactic polymers, the solvent and the temperature. Okay, and in which conditions you will get the syndiotactic polymers if you change the temperature, pressure or the solvent's polarity. So if you need a isotactic, then you will use this different technique, and if you use that syndiotactic, then you will use the different tactic. Okay, but all involves the Ziegler-Natta polymerization. Okay, and this polypropylene actually, right, this you get actually this is very actually strong, okay, and hard. When it is very strong and hard, then it can have various uses. As you can see here, this is another form of the polypropylene, right? And you see these jars, these containers actually are made up from that polypropylene, and this could be your isotactic or the syndiotactic. Okay, and all these things are, especially say since I am from the chemistry background, and I am delivering these lectures for the chemistry peoples, and you know the vials you use to actually keep your essential oil or your sample, or the desiccators you use, actually they are made up of these polypropylenes, which are atactic or which are isotactic or the syndiotactic. So this is the importance why we need the syndiotactic or the atactic polypropylene. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. And the next thing is, okay, this is the very famous picture, and in this picture you can see the two gentlemen. This is extreme. This is the where you can follow my cursor actually. Okay, the man actually with this light colored suit. This is Professor Ziegler from Germany. Okay, the full name is the Carl Ziegler, and this is where Professor Natta, Galileo Natta, he is from Germany, or he was from Germany, and he was from he was from Italy. Professor Natta from Italy and Ziegler from Germany actually. Okay, so these two gentlemen are responsible for this one, and these two get the Nobel Prize these two gentlemen got the Nobel Prize in 1963, and they did in this research in somewhere in mid 1950s actually. Okay, so what actually they did actually, so if you go for the starting where they have started actually, they have taken, see, I am talking about the Professor Ziegler right now. Okay, Professor Ziegler. So what they did actually, they are doing this polymerization starting with the ethylene. Okay, and they are doing this polymerization in presence of your trialkyl aluminium, R3Al. This is trialkyl aluminium, and of course a very high temperature is there. Okay, and along with this high temperature, high pressure is also there. Okay, and then they are forming a kind of the polymer, but they are not getting the polymer. Instead of getting the polymer, they are getting the oligomer. Oligomer, that means only few units of the monomers are there in that case. Okay, and there is no formation of the complete polymer. Actually the molecular weight is not very high for this one, somewhere around molecular weight, it's somewhere around 5000 Dalton, okay, or the kilo Dalton, whatever the unit is. So molecular weight is quite low, right? So this is not a very good. So but what he did actually, right? So he did the same reaction, right? He did the same reaction. Say he took that trialkyl aluminium, and in that case he added transition metals. Okay, he added the transition metal. The moment he added the transition metal, the reaction actually occurred at very low temperature, very low temperature. And in the industry, very low temperature means somewhere around 50 to 100 degrees centigrade. Okay, at this particular temperature, and even at very low pressure. So what he actually did, he only added the transition metal to it, and the moment he added the transition metal to it, the reaction actually occurred at very low temperature and very low pressure, and here actually he was able to form your high molecular weight polythene. CH2, sorry, CH single bond, CH, right, this is your polythene, and it is linear in nature. This polythene is linear in nature, it is not cross linked. Remember, this Ziegler actually produced the linear polythene, not the cross linking polymer in that case. Okay, so this was done by actually Ziegler. And after that you see here, independently somewhere in Italy, the Professor Netta was also doing the certain thing. Netta from Italy, what actually he was doing, see, he has taken this propene molecule. Okay, he has taken this propene molecule, and without knowing that what actually some other man like your Professor Ziegler was doing in his lab, he was not able, like he actually don't have any idea that this type of the reaction is carrying out somewhere in the world. Some people is carrying, some man is actually doing this kind of the reaction. Without this knowledge, he independently doing another kind of the research, and he also took that trialkyl aluminium, and in that case again he has taken the transition metal, and when actually he did this particular reaction, he also get the propylene, that is your CH2 single, CH3, okay, just like that, where N and N, this is the degree of polymerization. So he also get this one, and this is actually the surprising thing is that this actually is very stereoselective. Okay, it is having the very high molecular weight polymer, as well as the stereochemistry is quite good there, stereoselective. Okay, so what kind of the stereoselective, see, depending upon the conditions, actually here he got two kinds of things in that case. First is, say, isotactic or your syndiotactic. So both actually gentlemen did the same kind of the thing, but they have used the different monomers. He used this propene, and earlier the Professor Ziegler was used that ethene actually, and the end result is quite the same for the two gentlemen. Okay, and you will be very surprised to know that. Okay, even today actually somewhere around 40% of the polymers which are made up of these alkene kind of the systems, they actually use the Ziegler-Natta method to produce these things. Okay, so this is the importance actually. Now you can take the Ziegler-Natta catalyst. So what are Ziegler-Natta catalyst? Ziegler-Natta catalyst. Okay, Ziegler-Natta catalyst. So in this Ziegler-Natta catalyst, what you can use? See, you can use actually organometallic compounds. Classically, actually, you can use the organometallic compounds. But these are the olden. This is the story for the olden days. Okay, organometallic compounds, because nowadays actually metallocenes are generally used in the Ziegler-Natta catalyst, but I am going to the classical one actually. Okay, but in the modern science actually we use the metallocenes in case of the instead of your organometallic compound. Okay, and these organometallic compounds are generally from either from the group 1 metal to group 3 metal. Okay, so in the group 1 you know what you can have your lithium, sodium, potassium series, right? You can take, and then second you can take your say magnesium, okay, and calcium, all these things, second series, that is. And the third one is what, third is your aluminium, gallium, indium. You can use either of the metal, okay, and you actually mix this metal with the transition metals. So what kind of the transition metals you will use? So you can use either transition metal starting from your group 4 to group 8. So you can use group 4 metal, group 5 metal, group 6 metal, group 7 metal, or group 8 metal. Okay, you can use any one. So for example, if you use the group 4, that means it is titanium, zirconium, hafnium. You can use any one of them. Okay, and then vanadium, and then your niobium, Ne actually, okay, not sorry, Ne, so very sorry, okay, niobium, Nb, very sorry, and then after that nobita, this is tantalum, you can use this one, and after that you can use the chromium, molybdenum, or tungsten, and or you can use your manganese, your titanium, or your rhenium. You can use your iron, you can use your ruthenium, or you can use your osmium. Okay, so this is these are the transition metals which you can use. So what you can do, you can take either of these metals in the form of your alkyl reagent and mix it with the transition metals halides. See, obviously you will take the halides of these one. Please remember, you will take the halides of these. So now you can think you are having the number of the options to actually form the different kinds of the Ziegler-Natta catalyst. So if someone says what are the Ziegler-Natta catalyst, then you will straightforward reply, Ziegler-Natta catalyst is the combination of the metal halides from the transition metals, and you can use either of the transition metal halides along with the alkyl metals, and these alkyl metals will be you can take from either from your lithium series or magnesium series or the aluminium series. Okay, and see, more than 95%, in more than 95% cases actually the famous combination actually used by this by Ziegler-Natta or even the other scientists in the industries, actually they use these combinations only. Okay, and these combinations are used in the 95% cases, these combinations are used. Okay, and very popular Ziegler-Natta catalysts are say titanium chloride. Okay, and this titanium chloride with your triethyl Et3Al. This combination is the very famous combination. Sometimes actually some electron donors can also be added to the reaction, but this is the very famous one, very important. And one thing is very important which you should know, guys. This TiCl3, basically it has having the different kinds of the form, like it has an alpha form, beta form, and your gamma form, delta form. All kinds of the titanium chlorides are there, but please remember, this beta form is not actually very good form to actually add to this trialkyl aluminium to make Ziegler-Natta catalyst. But you will use in that case alpha form, gamma form, or the delta form. These forms are very useful, right? And typically when you take the when you have these kinds of the combination, you will always get the isotactic polymers. In that case you will get the isotactic polymers, mostly isotactic polymers. Okay, but say sometimes if you take this combination, this is the exception, I can write here, this is the exception. If you take your vanadium chloride with this R3Al then it will produce a syndiotectic polymer. So these are the Ziegler-Natta catalyst, very important. Now you can go for the mechanism of the Ziegler-Natta catalyst. So what kind of the mechanism, actually till date mechanism is not quite clearly understood by the experts. Actually people are doing lots of research in explaining the you say the mechanism of this particular reaction, but they are not able to give the correct idea about the mechanism. But the most accepted kind of the mechanism for this Ziegler-Natta catalyst is given by the Natta itself. Okay, Natta mechanism I can write, Natta mechanism, and this Natta mechanism is a bimetallic mechanism. So I can write here bimetallic mechanism, bimetallic mechanism. Okay, so what happens actually in this bimetallic mechanism? Actually in that case, you see, if you take this what I can do, if you take the titanium chloride, right, this is Ti and these are the chlorines attached to it, Cl, and intentionally the third actually chlorine I am writing in that manner because I am going to form a kind of dimer from this. Okay, this dimer will formed actually by the you say the Chemies options. You know what is the meaning of the Chemies option? Basically this titanium is actually what, electron deficient. Okay, why it is electron deficient? Because titanium is in +3 oxidation state here. It is in +3 oxidation state. It is electron deficient. Okay, that means when it is electron deficient, definitely it is it can act as a electrophile. It is electrophile. E positive I am writing. So it actually requires the nucleophile. Any nucleophile can attack over it. Please remember this point. Okay, but this will explain this point I will explain later on. What can happen in that case? If you take the, say you are having the aluminium here, trialkyl aluminium, R and R. Okay, this is aluminium and it is trialkyl aluminium. So intentionally what I am doing, I am writing with the dotted line here, right here. And what can happen actually, this trialkyl aluminium gets chemisorbed on the surface of the titanium. Chemisorption, you know, there are two kinds of the adsorption, that is chemisorption and the say physisorption. Physisorption means only the physical interaction is there. Chemisorption means the chemical absorption, that means the formation of the bond would occur between the two species in that case. Okay, so in that case, since it is actually you see titanium is electron deficient, what can happen? It can actually, see, this is the active side actually. This active this will produce this thing, and this thing will produce a bridged compound actually, and this bridged compound is forming due to the your chemisorption. So what can happen in that case? This can interact with this one. Okay, and this can interact with this one. So I can write in that manner. Please remember this aluminium is smaller in size, small size. So since size is small, so it can easily chemisorbed on this one, right, on the surface of the titanium. So this actually, the process actually, this process which I am showing here, it is chemisorption. It is chemisorption. Okay, this is chemisorption. Okay, so this is something very, very important. And what can happen, you know, actually this titanium is electron deficient. When this titanium is electron deficient, so what can happen? Any actually nucleophile, that means nucleus loving, that means rich in the nuclear, rich in the electron density, like if you have the CH2 double bond CHX kind of thing. Okay, so it can very easily attack on this one because it is electron rich, it is electron deficient. Okay, and then the mechanism goes on. Okay, so however, see, I am not explaining the complete mechanism in that case, so, but I am writing what can actually happen. This part actually, right, why it is called the bimetallic mechanism, right? So by the meaning of the bimetallic mechanism is that this is the one metal, this is another metal, and that actually the monomer which is CH2 double bond CHX, which it will get inserted between the two metals. That means it will insert somewhere here and it will form a bond with this titanium and with this aluminium, and this R goes in some other way actually. Okay, so basically the monomer is approaching on the active side and this is the active side, please remember. So what actually you can form in that case, I can write it here. Okay, so guys, you are listening some certain kind of the background music because I am shooting this video in my residence only, and I think there is a function going on somewhere, somewhere near actually. Okay, so you can listen some background music. Please ignore that background music. Focus on the things which I am saying in this, which I am explaining in this particular video. Okay, so what can happen actually, as I already explained to you, this will insert in between titanium and the aluminium. So how it will insert? So this is quite interesting to see. Say this is my titanium and these are the two CLs. I can write here, one CL here, one CL here. Okay, and this is the CL, the third CL for this one, and this is the aluminium, and this aluminium itself is having the two R groups. Okay, and here you see the monomer, which was your CH2 CHX. Okay, it gets inserted here and it form this kind of the complex, okay. So that's why it is bimetallic mechanism, because it's this monomer gets inserted between the two metals actually, and this is the propagating chain actually, this is the propagating chain. Okay, this is the propagating chain, and what can happen, another monomer will come here, it will insert again, the chain will grow, another monomer will come here, then the chain will further grow. This will happen continuously actually. So how the chain will form, I can show you here. I can write, so this gets dissociated, this is my titanium, this is my CL, this is my another CL, and you see here this is the CH2 which I have initially taken, and this was my bond here, this was the X associated with this one, and again this is the CL, and this CL is linked with the aluminium, that aluminium is having the two R groups here, and like you are having CH2 CHX. Okay, so one thing I have missed here, technically I can write P here, which is the polymer residue, it is the polymer residue. Okay, this is the polymer residue actually. So this I can write this polymer residue here also, P. So in that case what can happen, the polymer actually what can happen in that case, if you see here, slightly polarity is developed in that case. So how the polarity developed in that case, you see here, say this is going in this direction, so this is slightly negative and this one is slightly positive. Okay, and this one is again is slightly negative and this one is slightly positive. So you will remember this point, what actually is happening in that case. You see here, this particular monomer, okay, this monomer is nucleophilic in nature, okay, which approaches onto this titanium and forms this pi complex. Okay, forms this pi complex, and that this is the pi complex, guys. Okay, and this step is followed by the partial ionization of the olefins, okay, and the alkyl bridge. You see, this is the partial ionization, this is also the partial ionization. This actually happens in that case, and this will readily convert into your say 6-member transition state. So what can happen, I can actually draw it this again on the next page. So how it happens actually, see, this is titanium, this was Cl, this was Cl, and this was CH2, this was CHX, and this is the polymer residue. Okay, this is Cl, and not this actually, this is aluminium, and this is CH2, 2R is already there, R2 or 2R are already there, and this is another CHX, This is polymer residue. So actually I made a mistake here. Let me correct it. And the correction is this: CH2 CHX partial ionization, slightly negative, slightly positive. Okay, here also it is slightly negative. So this is how you can do. This will form the transition state. This will form a transition state, and that transition state would be like that: CH with X here, and this is the CH2. Of course, partial ionization I can show here, and then you are having this titanium here with the 2Cl, and this is next Cl, and this is aluminium with two different R groups. Okay, and this will come here, that will be CH2, and this will be linked with this one, and this is CHX, or this is the polymer residue. So you can easily see this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6. So this is the 6-membered transition state. Okay, and what can happen in that case? You see another monomer like CH2 double bond CH X. Okay, another monomer actually will come here to attack, not exactly to this position, but on this particular complex it will attack, and the moment it will attack, it will regenerate your original catalyst. It will regenerate your original catalyst, and that original catalyst will be TiClCl. Okay, and this was a CH2, this is Al, this is Cl, and these are the two R which are attached with this one, and you see this would become now CHX, CH2, this is CHX, this is polymer residue. So here you see you are having only this CHX and this polymer residue, but the next monomer inserted in between them, in these two, between these two metals like titanium and the aluminium, and you see original your complex, by your original complex or your original catalyst will be you will get back, and just this chain propagates. Actually this is the chain propagation, and once this chain propagation actually continues, so it continues for the desired degree of polymerization. It continues for the desired degree of polymerization, and ultimately it will give you the polymer. So this is the most accepted kind of the mechanism given by the Professor Neta actually itself, and this is the bimetallic mechanism. However, along with this bimetallic mechanism, monometallic mechanism is also explained by some other scientists. So what actually the monometallic mechanism, you can see here. So this next mechanism is the monometallic mechanism. Monometallic mechanism, and this monometallic mechanism is given by Coase and Allman. These two gentlemen give this kind of the mechanism. So what he explained, actually he said that your transition metal, if you are using the any transition metal, like if you are using the titanium, it is having the vacant d orbital, and that vacant d orbital is responsible for the catalytic activity. Okay, and basically the chain growth occurs in the titanium alkyl bond. So in the previous case, if you see here, the chain propagation is happening in this particular case, chain propagation is happening in between the two metals. That's why it is bimetallic mechanism. But in the monometallic mechanism, that chain propagation would occur between the titanium and the alkyl bond. Please remember. Okay, so in that case, what actually he explained in that case, see, this is my titanium. This is actually octahedral coordinated crystal, right? When it is octahedral in nature, so you can write the octahedral nature for this one. 1 2 3 4 5, and say this is the sixth one. Okay, and here you see here, this is my CH2, this is CHX, and this is the polymer residue, and this site actually is the vacant d orbital. Basically this is vacant site, this is vacant site, and this vacant site is responsible for the catalytic activity. So you will remember this point. This actually titanium, this titanium complex is actually the 5 coordinated titanium complex, and the 6th site is the vacant site, right? Why it is here actually? Because this is responsible for the catalytic activity. So initially what happens, see, is in the starting point actually the active center formation actually occurs by the addition of the alkyl group to the vacant d orbital. So this is what can happen somewhere. This say I can explain this one. This is the vacant d orbital. So one thing can approach here to form the another kind of thing. Say for example, this is this catalyst you are having, which you have produced, and then you are having, say, this one, CHX double bond CH2, right? This is same monomer actually. Okay, so this is something very, very important. So this will approach onto this vacant orbital. So when it approaches to the vacant orbital, it will produce this thing, titanium. These are the 3 now. Okay, and this was your CH2, CHX, not 2, and this is your polymer residue. Okay, and this d orbital will actually accept the electron from this monomer CH2, CHX. As you know guys, this is the electron rich. This electron density would be donated here, and this complex formation would occur in that case. Please import, this is something very, very important. So what can happen in that case? The alkyl aluminium compound. So whatever the alkyl aluminium compound you have taken, see, in that case actually you have taken the, so please remember this, I forgot to mention actually, you will take this TiCl3. Okay, along with the TiCl3 you will take this diethyl aluminum chloride. You will take this actually. Okay, so initially the alkyl aluminium compound, right, this alkyl aluminium compound, right, it gets chemisorbed on the vacant d orbital. It gets chemisorbed in that vacant d orbital, and titanium actually gets alkylated in that case. Like titanium gets alkylated here because it is having the large number of the vacant d orbitals. So in the one of the vacant d orbitals, your this part actually get coordinated in that case. Okay, and now this is see, in that case you see another center is there which initiates the polymerization. Okay, and you will get this thing. Or in the earlier case you have formed the transition state which was 6-membered, but in that case you will form the transition state which would be 4-membered. So how you can form? Say this is CH2, this is CH, and this CH is having X, this is another CH2. Okay, and this CH2 now is linked with the titanium. Of course these 3 bonds are there for the titanium, in fact 4th. Okay, and then you are having this species, and this part is having CH2, CHX, and the polymer residue. This has formed actually. How it has formed? You see here, this is your titanium, this part. Okay, and now this is co-linked with the, because this will form the bond with this one as well as for this one. So titanium has formed with this here. Okay, and you see this part, this CH or X. So this part I have represented here, and this is CH2. Okay, along with the titanium, linked with the titanium, and this is linked with this one. The interaction would occur in between 2. So this interaction I have shown here, and this part I have shown here actually. So this is the transition state. This is the 4-member transition state, and this 4-member transition state, after that what can happen? The reaction continues actually. Okay, please remember, the reaction continues, and you have regenerated the active site. So how you will regenerate the active site? For this I have to remove this. So this was titanium in the earlier stage, 5 coordinated. So this active site I have regenerated. This is the active site I have regenerated after breaking of this complex, and you see the chain propagation would occur here. CH2, CHX, CH2, CHX, and this is the polymer residue P. So you see this chain is actually propagating. So earlier you are having only this thing, you see this thing. When it is chemisorbed here, you will form this stage, and it will form your 4-membered cyclic transition state, and this 4-membered cyclic transition state will take up this part and propagate, and it will regenerate this titanium part. So this propagation actually continues. So numerous numbers of the incoming, see what can in the next step, another thing can come here, and again it can form this thing, and then this chain continues, and this chain continues as long as you need actually, right, for degree of polymerization, and finally it will end up the your linear polymer. So this is only the propagation step. It is not the see initiation. So I have already explained to you, but termination can also occur. After that, the termination would occur. Please remember, chain termination would occur. Termination would occur to give polymer. So it is not very important to actually know how the termination would occur actually. Okay, so one thing you can notice, say this is my titanium, this is CH2, and say this is CH, and this is CH2. Okay, and that was that propagating part. Okay, and what can happen? It can what it can do in that case, the beta hydride transfer would occur. Beta H transfer to transition metal. So what is actually the beta hydrogen actually? You see, this is your alpha, this is your beta, this is your gamma part. Okay, it is connected one. So this hydrogen actually would get transferred from here to titanium to terminate the chain. Okay, and this will liberate from here. This will liberate from here actually. So what it will give you, if you see here, it will liberate your titanium hydride due to the beta transfer reaction. And what you left with? You left with what? See, this will come here now. So you left with CH2, double bond C, this, and CH3. So this is the end group, which is the polymer actually. So this is the one way of terminating the chain actually. Okay, when the chain terminates actually, then you will get the polymers. However, this is not the only way to actually terminate the chain. There are the various methods to terminate the chain, but it is not very important to know the termination mechanism. So this is all about the Ziegler-Natta catalysis. So please remember, this Ziegler-Natta catalysis is very, very important for your examinations, and in competitive examinations also generally they ask the question from this particular topic. So I have explained all these things to the best of my capabilities, and if you have any doubt on this, you can ask the questions, and you can go through the various textbook about this, right? So that's it for today. In the next class, I'll meet you with some other important and interesting concept of the polymers. Thank you very much.